Hello, everyone. Welcome to Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread. This handsome monkey is Trent. Trent is my inside voice that quite often is on the outside. My apologies for Trent. Let's move on. We're doing a reaction to a video by Spell&Shield here called the Todd Howard Delusion. And the original video will be linked down below, so check it out for yourself if you choose to. But in the meantime, let's go through it ourselves, and I will give my reaction to this video. As I'm calling this, is Todd Howard Delusional?
There's been a Starfield update, and some people have been heralding it as if it were the second coming of Christ. This video is not about that update. It's about something else.
Good.
The proverbial elephant in the room when it comes to Bethesda. At the moment of me composing this script, the reviews on Steam regarding Starfield sit at mixed, with only 59% of the reviews being positive. And that's only if you believe that the positive reviews are actually positive, because many of them are quite mixed despite being labeled as positive, such as this one. Quote, "Wait a couple of years, buy this game, and its DLC on sale. Should be worth the money by then."
And that's a positive review to tell you to wait a couple of years so that it'll be worth it. A positive review is don't buy this game right now, but maybe buy it in a couple of years. Wow, that is so positive. What a glowing recommendation. Hey, this game is shit right now, but it'll probably be better maybe hopefully years down the road. You may want to come back and look at it then. They're like, that's a positive review. Yes. My God.
Then, while I would recommend this game, I can only do so with caveats. First off, I've had fun playing it for the 500 plus hours that I have. It can be a fun game, but a better title for it would have been Starfield: Missed Opportunities, because there's so much that just feels bland or not fleshed out or simply missing that it's hard not to notice.
By
I
so
wasn't
much,
on
he
the
means
hype train before
everything.
it came out, so I didn't have any expectations going in. That said, it didn't take long for me to start feeling a little blah about this game. The main quest is just a long line of fetch quests. Some of the side missions are pretty good. The shipbuilding is fun, but can be very frustrating at times because some things don't do what you want them to do. The 1,000 planets are really not worth exploring, unless you just want to be a completionist, etc. And prior to a lot of the big recent updates, very unfinished. Multiple aggravating or game-breaking bugs.
This is from a guy who put 500 hours into the game and says he recommends it with caveats. That's a hell of a lot of caveats already, buddy. That's a hell of a lot. I don't know how you could say everything is boring and unfinished. The planets aren't worth going to. The main storyline is a bunch of fetch quests. Blah 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 blah. List off all these terrible things, and still say you recommend the game, including the fact that I soon found myself bored with the game. But you keep playing it because you guess you want to finish it. You're one of those people. Once I started, I bought it. I started it. I got to finish it. That's not a reason to recommend a game. I don't understand. I understand some people actually legit enjoy this game. Some of them do. I'm going to say it's a pretty small percentage of people, but there's some that do. I don't understand, though, people like being able to see all the incredibly bad parts of this game and still saying, oh, I recommend it. Oh, I played it for 500 hours. That's nuts. That is fucking insane. Get a life. Move on. Go back to Farmville. Oh my God.
I restarted 3 times because of those. That should have been fixed by day 1. Kudos for fixing most of them later. Could care less for the posing and photos, though, but whatever.
No, there's no kudos for fixing game-breaking bugs later on. This is not an early access game. Fuck you, Bethesda. Get it right. Oh, that's right. They can never get it right, and they never will.
Okay. All that said, I did have fun playing it most of the time. Things got a little better after the recent big updates by far, but I would highly suggest that if you buy this game, wait a couple of more years for most of the bugs to get worked out when all the expansions DLC are out and when it's on sale. Don't get it for full price, as it's not worth it.
Wow.
By then, there should be more significant good mods out there that will add more as well.
Oh, so wait for the modders to fix it in a couple of years. People, stop buying Bethesda games. Stop it. Your Fallout TV series just got a whole bunch of people to go out and buy Fallout 4 or buy Fallout 3 or maybe 1 or 2. I don't know. And yeah, they jump in and they have fun for a while, but they soon discover what a fucking mess these games are. They financed this TV series and put it out merely to drive people back to Bethesda after Starfield drove everyone away from Bethesda. You understand how crooked and underhanded this company is? God. They are the crooks of the crooks. The lowest of the fucking low is Bethesda. Stay away from them, people. Don't buy their shit.
Yes, that was a positive review. Now, so-called positive reviews on Steam like this one I've just quoted are a dime a dozen. And if you counted them, the positive reviews would almost certainly drop significantly below 50%, which means, at the end of the day, not all that positive. To many fans of Bethesda games, Starfield came as a shock, and to others, it was anything but shocking. But one thing that has remained a game industry truism for as long as there have been games is that a game developer is only as good as their last game, which is to say that public perception of what was most recently released will inevitably color the glasses of anyone, no matter how impartial or objective.
And that's why they pushed to get the Fallout 4 TV series out. I mean, you're like, yeah, Bethesda didn't do the series. Yeah, but everyone had to get permission for Bethesda. Bethesda was behind it. Trust me. They knew years ago, probably even before they released Starfield, that this was going to be a very rocky game, that it was not completed, it was not finished, it was not bug-proof, blah, blah, blah. They knew this was going to get hammered, okay? And they were pushing to get the TV series out to drive people back to Fallout to raise the public opinion of Bethesda again. That's all this was about. So hopefully when their next game comes out, people will be thinking about the great TV series and forget about all the fucking disasters they have in the gaming industry. That's all they're doing. Hype and lies. Hype and lies. That's it. That's all you get from Bethesda.
When it comes to that developer's next game, people end up thinking the worst of a developer. This might not even be true in terms of a development studio's actual potential or capability, but that's just how it typically shakes out. And so it is with God Howard's magnum opus Starfield, one of Bethesda's worst received games ever, and certainly worst received single-player game. This of course means that Bethesda has quite the task before them. To put it mildly, and though I'm not the first person to say this, I am fairly convinced that Elder Scrolls 6 will make it or break it for Bethesda Game Studios. You might argue based on what I've just said that it's because of Starfield, and yes, that's a huge part of it, make no mistake. But it isn't just that. It's the accumulation of problems that have been growing over the years.
Thank you.
And at the same time have been ignored. And I believe there's a common thread here. A singular factor that ties in all the other factors. What is that factor? It's called Skyrim. Skyrim is now almost 13 years old, which in and of itself is nothing remarkable, as there are plenty of old games. But what is remarkable is that a 13-plus-year-old single-player game is still being played rather vigorously today, and still has mods being made for it. That's certainly an achievement. But what's perhaps more incredible is that a 13-plus-year-old game has more concurrent players in any given month than a game that's not even a year old, namely Starfield. Now, Skyrim is a fun game, and I like it a lot. In fact, I have a combined total of 5,596.7 hours between Skyrim Special Edition and the original Skyrim. I say this just to prove my bona fides when it comes to the game. But there remains a question, an important one. Why was Skyrim as popular as it was? Was Skyrim a truly unique gaming experience, once in a lifetime, or was it something else? Now, Skyrim by itself does offer a fair bit. It's vast, but not so vast that you can't explore it. And this really is, to my mind, the major point of attraction. The landscape, the location of northern Tamriel, does a lot to bolster that feeling of epicness when traveling across Skyrim. And then there are the dragons and shouts, and you're, of course, the Dragonborn, the first time Bethesda has ever made this type of chosen one type of character in their games.
Was it the first time?
A powerful vampire or a werewolf, and for the time, the perk system was very cool. and playing in Nord if you choose to do so just gives off epic Viking vibes. For its time, Skyrim really struck a chord, scratching a particular itch that people had. Sure, they'd played Oblivion and Morrowind and loved those, but the underlying tone of Skyrim was just something different, and it spoke to people. Now, a lot of people judge games by how many hours they've played, and it certainly is a good metric to some degree.
It'd have a different tone,
as you wouldn't invest a lot of time into a game if you didn't like it. But it isn't the only metric. As I've said, I've played thousands of hours of Skyrim, but it isn't even in my top 3 games of all time.
Wow.
Or even my top 10, possibly, to be perfectly honest. Skyrim
definitely
is
my top 10.
But how many people would rate it as the best game ever? Or even best in particular categories?
I mean, to be fair, when I think about Skyrim, though, I do think about it with mods, because I don't play Skyrim without mods. I hate Skyrim without mods. It is so incomplete, and still so many bugs in it. So many terribly designed systems, right from the UI all the way down. Not being able to have those mods that fix those things. When I create a mod list for Skyrim, I've got 200, probably close to 200 mods that are just fixing bugs. And yes, some of those bug fixing mods are fixing bugs between a mod and a mod. Yes, but still, there's a lot to fix in the game just to make it run properly, and then allow you to start modding. To add in characters, to add in quests, to tweak quests to make them better or expand them, to make your citizens more alive, have their own schedules, be more talkative, to have missive boards, these kind of things, to give you other ways of getting quests, to adding in, enemies and getting enemies more powerful, to changing your skill trees, your spells available, the way combat works, and then of course just looking at your lighting, your weather, your water mods, your landscape mods, and then textures for anything and everything you want to change that. The changing creatures, adding creatures, changing the textures and the models of creatures, changing the way creatures behave. There is so much to do to make it the game you want it to be, but you do that through mods. Vanilla Skyrim is I got a choice between playing vanilla Skyrim and playing modded Skyrim. I'll take modded every time. And if my only choice is vanilla Skyrim, I will probably just play another game. I just won't do it. The only time I do any vanilla Skyrim is when I'm creating a mod list. I want to do some testing, and I'm basically testing vanilla with a couple of things added. As we go through the mods and start adding more mods to it. But playing vanilla Skyrim is painful. It's painful. Once you've done the modded stuff, you can't go back.
Is the story truly compelling? What about the dialogue and characters? The combat? Maybe some people would still rate it as top-notch, but the category that Skyrim seems to have performed best is in longevity, which we have to be honest about, is mostly down to mods, not Bethesda. The game's been 100%. Played now for over 13 years, and will continue to be played into the future, which has led to a critical error on the part of Bethesda and God Howard. All games are products of their time and place, and Skyrim was no different. If Skyrim had been released last year or 2 years ago, it almost certainly would not have attained its cult status for a variety of reasons. But understanding and acknowledging that games are products of their time and place is essential, and this was a lesson that Bethesda did not learn. When Skyrim blew up and continued to be popular for years after its release, Bethesda was led into a trap of delusional thinking. They mistakenly began to believe that Skyrim was not just a once-in-a-lifetime fluke of a success, but was in fact predictive of and correlative with how every game they make would perform,
something they could repeat
forward. But it wasn't. It was a fluke, and something that they simply could not replicate just by making another game.
Nope.
Be it Fallout 4,
clearly not,
or the infamous Starfield. They got overconfident and thought that they were invincible, and this led them to believe that anything they made could achieve Skyrim-like success. Do you remember God Howard's statements about how he wanted Starfield to be played for at least 20 years? That's not going to happen now.
Nope.
And that's the price of hubris.
Clearly not.
All games are ultimately successes based on time, place, and the subjectivity of the experience, which always meant that Skyrim was a once-in-a-lifetime success for them, and you simply cannot build a future on a fluke. The very idea that every game Bethesda made after...
They should have moved on to, like, mobile games or something, you know. Maybe done some card battlers. Because every RPG they put out is going to be compared to Skyrim. It is. Yes, and there's plenty of you out there who like Morrowind or Oblivion or Daggerfall or Arena or Starfield. Apparently, I'm dropping shit off my table, my computer desk here. It's one of those videos. There's plenty of you who like those games. You say, no, I like this game more than I like Skyrim because, and you're going to list your reasons, and that's fine. But there's no question longevity for Skyrim and modding, which go hand in hand in this case, have made it the top game Bethesda has ever put out. Doesn't mean it has to be your favorite, but it is the top game Bethesda has ever put out. I don't think there's any denying that. But yeah, the thought that they could make more RPGs and that they wouldn't be compared to Skyrim or that they could reach Skyrim levels is actually ridiculous. It really is. Because they're discounting the fact that Skyrim was so great because modders got hold of it and began to fashion it into something great from what it was, which was kind of a blank canvas. It was a blank canvas with a few splashes of color and a hint of trees over here and some water over there. But then the modders come along and make it into their own Van Gogh. I mean, they make it into their own Monet. They make it into their own masterpiece because the modders are looking at it and saying, they're making mods for themselves. They're making mods like, hey, I'm going to make this mod because it works with my mod list, with what I'm doing, and it makes my game better. And then I'm going to share it with others. And to think that another game is going to in any way reach that level is clearly ridiculous. Clearly ridiculous.
After Skyrim was somehow going to be an eternal hit just like Skyrim is, frankly speaking, the height of delusion. And yet, based on Bethesda's rhetoric and their statements, this is exactly what they came to believe.
Yep.
Given this, we need to consider what we can reasonably expect for Elder Scrolls 6. So let's assume it comes out in 2029, 18 years after the release of Skyrim. Will it look different? A little bit, probably, but how much? Most AAA studios these days are using some version of Unreal Engine 5.
How much different is it going to look? Because Bethesda continues to use their own engine because they want static objects in the world. Not static objects, movable objects, things you can pick up and interact with. That's what their engine does. That's what it allows them to do. And it's one of the reasons why they've never moved on. Now, could other engines do that? Yes, not quite as well. Not quite as well. But why have they never moved on from their engine? Why have they not gone with something like Unreal that gives amazing graphics? Instead of the bland kind of cartoonish and very dated look that their engine gives. Why? Why have they never moved on? Because they don't think they need to? Because they're scared to? Because they don't know other things as well as they know this one? Because this is the one that made them great with Skyrim? Because they're still trying to re-achieve that? Think about it. It's beyond curious. It's very perplexing. They do everything that you're like, wow, that's the exact opposite of what you probably should do. And that seems to be Bethesda. So how different is it going to look? Well, if it's the same engine, it's not going to look very different than Skyrim or Starfield. I mean, Starfield better graphics than Skyrim? Yes, same engine, better graphics. Is it great graphics? Hell no. The graphics still look dated by 10 years, but it's 2024. So if I'm saying the graphics look like 2015 graphics or maybe even 2016 graphics, That's clearly better than, when Skyrim came out in 2011, 2012. Um, but it's still not very good. How much better they could be able to make the graphics if they stick with this engine? Minusculely, I'd say. So you're going to come out and your game's going to look 10 to 15 years dated automatically for the graphics. But yeah, that's what they're going to do because they're Bethesda.
And the gods only know how much better this will look in a couple of years when it already looks incredible. Case in point is CD Projekt Red, who gave up their own proprietary engine, the Red Engine, which worked very well for both Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 in favor of Unreal Engine 5.
That's
because
huge.
They honestly thought that this would be a better way of presenting their games in the future. Now contrast that with Bethesda, who are still using the old engine, and yes, I'm aware they've improved on it and iterated on it over the years, but it still fundamentally presents as ancient when compared to the likes of Unreal's latest iterations, and will be guaranteed to do so when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out.
Right, you should be creating horror movies with characters like this, Bethesda, truly. And I don't mean Redfall horror games. And I certainly don't mean horror games like Starfield, how horrible it turned out. I mean, these look like characters out of a horror movie. Like out of your worst fucking nightmare. Not people you're getting quests from in an RPG.
So the mix that the faces of Skyrim actually look better than most of the faces in Starfield, and you quickly get the impression that Bethesda has actually regressed over the years. I just don't think the gaming world is in a position where a game that comes out in the late 2020s but looks like it came out in the early 2000s will be able to convince people of its quality, and these are just the visuals. But having said that, people value visuals to varying degrees, and having spoken of CD Projekt Red, consider by then that the next Witcher game will have likely been released among many other games, and they're probably going to look fantastic, at least visually, and so it's not looking good for Bethesda. But hey, let's be honest, Bethesda was never really about the graphics, right? It was about getting lost in huge explorable worlds. It was about the immersion. And how well did that work out for Bethesda with Starfield, may I ask?
Yeah, let's make a bigger world.
1,000 worlds, right? With all their wonderful and amazing loading screens. In many ways, Starfield was significantly worse in every imaginable metric compared to Skyrim. As mentioned before, Skyrim itself is not mind-blowingly amazing. It just embodies the best of what Bethesda could offer at the time.
That's true.
And has endured due to mods. So, if the best they can offer is 13 years plus old, and their latest showing is mediocre at best, what does this tell us about their future? Most recently, Bethesda released an updated quote-unquote modern version of Fallout 4, and they couldn't even bother to make sure that ultra-widescreen support actually worked properly, with a massive number of complaints being voiced within a few hours of its release. Bethesda isn't getting old. They're already old, and perhaps their worst quality is their inability or unwillingness to listen to customer and fan feedback. Instead, they will quite literally tell paying customers they're wrong. They will tell you that 2 plus 2 equals 5, even if everyone is screaming at them that it equals 4. Given this fact, realistically, what are the chances that Bethesda is going to be able to pull off Elder Scrolls 6?
0
given
or
their
less.
Current track record, and their blatant disregard for customer input and perception, routinely ignoring criticism, pretending the ship isn't sinking, and outright lying at times about the state of their games.
Always.
Let's be honest. The next Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be a dumpster fire.
Dog shit.
And will signal the death knell for Bethesda. But theoretically, there's a slim chance that things could be turned around. To do this, Bethesda would have to restructure their entire company, fire people, and get fresh blood into their studio. All of which has a fat cat's chance in hell of happening.
Thank you. That's exactly it. They need to change absolutely everything about their company and their studio, and then they have a small chance of succeeding. Without doing that, they have no chance. And the chances of them doing that are 0. I mean, I hammer on Bethesda. And again, Skyrim is one of my favorite games of all time. And yes, it is because of the mods. But I still, without Bethesda putting out Skyrim, there would be no mods for it. No game for me to play. So I do love me Skyrim, okay? But I don't love me Bethesda. I appreciate that they put out Skyrim. I appreciate that they put out whatever other game by them that you happen to like more than Skyrim or as much as Skyrim or that you would just enjoy. Right? You could appreciate that, but separate it from the fact that they are still a dog shit company who is getting even dog shittier as they go. Is that a thing? Dog shittier? It should be. It is now. It's our tagline. Bethesda. You thought we were dog shit. Now we're dog shittier. Maybe that's the way they should go about it and just stop lying and be truthful. Please don't buy our game. It's crap. Here it is. $300. People, ching, 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 give me. Because people are idiots. Because unfortunately, people now are going to associate Bethesda not with Starfield and the failures there, not with Redfall and the failures there, but they're going to associate it with the Fallout TV series, which is a success, as far as what I can see. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. God damn, they are long. They are too long of episodes for me. I don't enjoy that long of an episode. I'm into it, but I'm not that much into it that I can. It's just like halfway through, I get up and walk away and come back later. Anyways, I'm just saying that's me. But yeah, it's a popular series, obviously, and it's going to drive up the social consciousness, the social recognition of Bethesda as this great company, which they're not, and maybe never really have been. And it's going to get people buy their next game, which presumably is the Elder Scrolls 6, and which has very, very little chance of even being a decent game.
So that's probably not an option, but theoretically, it could be done. There once was a time when players could forgive the infamous Bethesda jank, but that was more than a decade ago, and given how games over the next few years will look and play, I doubt anyone will be able to look past what will probably look and play like a 25-year-old game.
Yeah.
It's tragic on some level, but I guess just as all empires have their peak and end, so too is it with game studios. And as much as I want to look forward to Elder Scrolls 6, there's not a shred of evidence that makes logical sense to do so. Yes, Elder Scrolls 6 might be an okay game, but that's not what we're expecting. We're not expecting an okay game.
No, we're not.
We're expecting and hoping for an excellent game.
Hoping,
all I can say in closing,
but expecting dog shit,
is woe betide him who believes in God Howard's sweet little lies going forward. We've all been fooled by him and others once too often.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. If you like my content, you can leave.
All right, so the original video is linked down below. That's pretty much what I've got to say about Todd Howard delusion, or whether or not Todd Howard is delusional. I believe the answer is yes, and it's spread through the entire company. I'm not saying Todd Howard is mentally ill. I'm not trying to say that, but I do think has a much higher opinion of himself and his company than was good for the company and himself. Yeah. So drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about this discussion, what you think about what I said, what you think about what Spell&Shield said, what you're thinking for yourself on this subject. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Again, this is not my attempt to rag on Bethesda, but I do believe that bringing this up and talking about it is important. And I'm not the only person doing it. Spell&Shield here tackled this 3 weeks ago now. Sorry, it took me a while to get to this. Yeah, I just think it's important people discuss this and keep this knowledge in the forefront of your brain, because again, things like the TV series is going to push Bethesda hype again when there should be no Bethesda hype. None. There is nothing they've done in the last 12 or 13 years that deserves any real hype. It's a sad, sad situation. It's a sad, sad company. But the saddest part is that they still suck people into spending their dollars on it. This is truly a company that should be put out to pasture, disbanded, bye-bye. And I don't say that with a big smile on my face. That's a sad thing. But it's time. It's past time, but it's time. So from Miss Valley Entertainment News, my name is Dread. We'll see you next video, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.